The gift giving season is upon us, and I saved this tweet from last year where this artist had hand embroidered the public transit to give to her friend who loved the tube. And I also have a friend who loves public transit, so I thought I would recreate this with the public transit of their city. And before I forget, let me introduce myself. My name is Nabila, and I've been sewing for about 15 years. And I went to school for fashion design, and I've also worked in the fashion industry. And on my channel, I share my experience and sometimes my expertise. And right now, I'm in homemade gift season. Anyway, back to the sweatshirt. Let me talk about some supplies. I am really not good at embroidery, but I have a big embroidery hoop and some embroidery floss. And I even have some beeswax, but I've never used this, it's still in the packaging, but I'm excited to use it for today's project. And I picked up something kind of interesting to help me with this project that I've never used before. It's Pellon Stick and Wash Away water soluble like fusible, and they come in like printer sized sheets, so you can put them right in the printer. Obviously this is not sponsored, this is a small channel over here, so they don't know who I am. But I thought the fusible was a great option to mark my map with because I am working with a brown sweatshirt, so I thought it'd be hard to mark on with a water soluble pen because the only ones that I have are blue, so I didn't think that that would show up very well on this. But yeah, I went ahead and printed it out because I just could not wait until I filmed this intro. I had to do it like immediately to see if it would work. And because my art was a little bit too big to fit on one sheet, I did something kind of funny and chopped up the map. So this part will go up here and this part will go here. And I printed this little dot so that I could test the water soluble paper and see if it actually would dissolve with ink on it. So let me go ahead and test that before I stick this onto anything. Okay, I'm back with a cup of lukewarm water. So I have my little piece cut out with the ink on it, and let me peel it away from the backing and let's see if this dissolves. It's kind of turning into a little ball. As I massage it, it's kind of dissolving, but it's feeling kind of like glue on my hands. So it is dissolving. I think this is a success, but in doing this, I just realized that I did not pre-wash my sweatshirt. So I think I'm going to have to throw this in the laundry and come back to this tomorrow. But this was a really cool test. I'm glad that I tested it out so that when I saw it in real life doing this, I wasn't gonna be scared. So anyway, I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning. My sweatshirt is now pre-washed and dried. And just in case you're wondering, I don't know if you need to pre-wash your garments before you embroider on them. This is a 70% cotton and a 30% polyester, so I just felt like it was better safe than sorry to go ahead and do it since it is mostly cotton. If it's 100% cotton, personally I would do it, but I know not everyone does that. I always feel like pre-washing is a good idea, but if you don't do it and you've been fine this whole time, then you do you. Anyway, so I think the next step will be to stick this fusible onto my sweatshirt and place it exactly where I want it. I tend to be kind of meticulous when it comes to placing things exactly on the center front. I know it doesn't have to be that serious, but I make it that serious, so let's get started. Actually, one more thing that I want to talk about before we get started on that is I picked up this blank from Independent Trading Company. The reason why I picked this sweatshirt is because it feels very sturdy and thick, and it doesn't feel like it'll stretch too much, which is important with the embroidery because when you're doing a hand embroidery especially, you don't want there to be too much stretch in the fabric. Actually, some people recommend no stretch at all. If you have a favorite blank sweatshirt that you use for hand embroidery, let me know in the comments down below. I would really be interested in that information. Okay, now it's time to get serious about placing this fusible. I wanted to place my art starting 2 inches down from the center front neck, so I attached the smaller section of the transit lines at the top so I can line up my bigger section with that. The fusible pieces have this adhesive on them that's repositionable, so I was actually able to move them around as I wanted, and they didn't leave a residue from where I had lifted them. I was pretty impressed by how strong this adhesive was. Even after lifting them a couple times, it kind of reminded me of spray glue, if you've ever used that. Cutting up my map into smaller pieces to get the size that I wanted worked fine, but if I had to do this project again, I think I would have cut my artwork in half to have 2 bigger pieces of fusible instead of having 1 large piece with 2 smaller pieces. The reason is because when I pulled on the fabric to have good tension in the hoop for my embroidery, the smaller pieces were more likely to shift over the fabric, whereas the larger piece was relatively sturdy because it just had more surface area. But that's just a lesson for next time. The next thing I was really excited to use for the first time was this beeswax. I get really frustrated when my thread knots up, and that experience alone has made me pretty discouraged to pick up embroidery as a hobby. But this beeswax is supposed to strengthen your thread and make it less prone to knotting. Spoiler alert, but this absolutely changed the game for me. Have you heard the phrase long thread, lazy girl? It's an old German phrase. I think it's pronounced langes Fädchen, faules Mädchen. That phrase came to mind when I was using this beeswax because my thread was less likely to get tangled, and therefore I was able to be a little bit more lazy and have longer threads. So some might call this lazy, but I call it efficient. Then it came time to embroider. I wanted to use a backstitch because that's a pretty strong type of embroidery and it creates a nice solid line. If you've never done a backstitch, I'll try to explain it quickly, but I'll also leave a better tutorial down below. Basically what I'm doing here is after I've made that first stitch, I will bring the needle to the top of the fabric about a stitch length away, and then I insert the needle back where my previous stitch had ended. Embroidery always looks better when you can maintain the same stitch length throughout your work. So to help me get even closer to that, I saw this hack on Instagram where you put some painter's tape on your thumb to help measure your stitches. To be honest, when I first saw this hack, I thought it was a little bit silly because I'm already pretty good at eyeballing, but this actually made me feel even more confident in my embroidery, which is a rare feeling when you're a beginner. I'm having trouble finding the reel that showed me this hack, so if you know who posted this, please let me know so I can give them credit. So I was about to finish the red all the way through, but then I thought about it and I thought it might be a little bit more efficient if I have to move the hoop less times. And so I actually, once I finished that first red thread, I am starting on the yellow or the orange. So yeah, that's going really well, and it's kind of annoying how much better the stitches are getting. But that's okay. I'm trying to let go of being a perfectionist, and it's harder than it looks. But the point of this is not to be perfect, it's to have a handmade gift, and it's okay if it looks handmade. Once I got into the groove of my embroidery, I put Gilmore Girls on in the background, and it's my first time watching this show, but I already understand why people enjoy it. It's such a cozy and comforting show with low stakes, and the plot moves so slowly that I don't really need to have my eyes on the screen. I can just enjoy working with my embroidery and not feel like I'm missing out on too much. I wanted to take a break to show you the backside of my work in case you're a beginner like me, to show you that it's a little bit messy, but it's okay. Hello! Today is another day of working on this embroidered sweatshirt, and here is what I got done yesterday. It's looking pretty good. I'm really excited about it. So today I feel like I can really lock in and finish all the transit lines. And then I want to work on the stops. I want to add the stops to this because I feel like it'll just be an interesting texture to add. So I think I want to do that in this white thread, but I don't know if I want to do white or gray, so let me look at my stash and see. But I was thinking on the areas of the transit map where multiple lines have a stop in one section, where it's more of like a line on this map, I wanted to do multiple back stitches. And then for the individual stops, I was thinking it'd be really fun to do a French knot. And if you don't know what a French knot is, it is kind of what it sounds like. It's a knot, but it's decorative and it's a little bit raised. So I thought that'd be a nice texture. I haven't done a French knot since like fashion school, so I'm really excited to do that. But yeah, let me go ahead and first finish this map. Good morning. So today I am wrapping up this embroidery. Last night I decided to go ahead and pick up a light gray embroidery thread because I just decided that this white was too harsh against the background and it would almost make the white like a focal point, which I didn't really want. I wanted the like transit lines to be the focal point. But here's what I have so far, and you totally could stop there if you wanted to, but I think adding the little line stops would be really cool and just add another like kind of texture to this. So today I'm going to focus on that. I honestly think I could finish that today. Hopefully that's not my ego talking. So when I was working on embroidering the stops, I was thinking about how if I were to connect my thread all the way through my work, it would create a lot of loose threads in the back, and those threads might get caught when the wearer is taking this on or off. So what I decided to do is keep my stops in groups of 3 if they were far apart, and that way if the thread did get snagged, it would just be a group of stops that needed to be fixed and not all the stops. Then I did the French knots, which were honestly a little tough because I was pulling through the thick sweatshirt and the interfacing, but I think it was so worth it. I will link a tutorial down below for the French knots because I could not get a good clip of how I was doing this because of all the tugging. And just like that, my embroidery was done. The next step in the process was cutting away the excess fusible, so I just carefully went ahead and did that. Today is the day that I'm going to dissolve the fusible on my sweatshirt. So again, this is what it looks like before I dissolved anything. And I have my bucket of lukewarm water as the instructions requested. So now I'm going to go ahead and submerge this whole thing in water. I was really impressed by how fast this was working compared to my test earlier in the video. I think because the sweatshirt actually had some weight to it, it really helped hold the fusible under the water, and so the paper actually dissolved really, really fast. That's coming off really clean. Like in this section, it's already completely off. I'm agitating it to try to get more of that paper off. This is actually coming off really cleanly. I'm really impressed with this. Okay, so I feel like we're done here. I'm just going to kind of rinse this away. After I took the sweatshirt out of the water, I just carefully squeezed out the excess water, and then I wrapped it up in a towel to get more water out, and lastly I hung it to dry. Here's the finished sweatshirt. I love how this came out. It made me want to try more embroidery projects, and I would definitely say that this stick-on fusible paper was a huge success. Although next time I should probably print my art in black ink since the light gray was kind of hard to see. The beeswax was a huge win for me. I absolutely loved using this. I think the only tool that could have made this project a little bit easier was a thimble because it was really hard to press the needle through this thick fabric and the fusible paper. But I think the beeswax even helped me there to make that whole process just a little bit less frustrating. I think my friend is really gonna love this gift. If you try this project out, please tag me. I would love to see it. I believe this video is posting the day before Thanksgiving, so I hope you have a happy and safe holiday, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!